and other greenhouse gases are necessary in trapping heat from the sun to keep us warm. But with excessive quantity, the global temperature increases. This phenomenon is called global warming. Besides resulting in longer and hotter days, an increase in global temperature also results a change in weather patterns, known as climate change. As global warming continues, scientists agree that the world is moving towards a dangerous tipping point of climate change in 2050. Currently, the level of greenhouse gases trapped in the atmosphere is 372 parts per million. Scientists report that if a 450 parts per million level is reached, the world would reach that tipping point. When this happens, many parts of the world would be submerged underwater as mountain glaciers melt and drain into the oceans. Super cyclones would be more frequent. Long droughts would result in the desertification of many places. Climate-related diseases would spread globally. More famine would happen, as agriculture would be severely affected. In the Philippines, it was observed that there was an average increase of temperature of 0.57 degrees Celsius from 1971 to 2000. If the tipping point of irreversible climate change is reached, as predicted in 2050, a 7-meter rise in sea levels will drastically reduce the land areas of islands in our country. Moreover, as the sea temperature rises because of global warming, more and more intense cyclones enter our country. In December 2011, Typhoon Sendong took more than 1,000 lives in northern Mindanao. Climate change is a global issue. Countries convened and agreed to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. The multilateral climate negotiations are ongoing, and the Philippines, led by the Climate Change Commission, is actually an active participant, strongly advocating for developed countries to take responsibility of their historical emissions. The Philippines, as a developing country, is vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. A recent Climate Change Vulnerability Index, released by the global risks advisory firm Maplecroft, ranked 16 countries out of 170 as extremely vulnerable to climate change. Of the 16, the Philippines is ranked 6th. Recognizing the archipelago's vulnerability to its potential dangerous consequences, in 2009, the Climate Change Commission was formed through Republic Act 9729, whose main function is to coordinate, monitor, and evaluate the government's programs to prevent and reduce the adverse impacts of climate change in the country. The Commission formulated the National Framework Strategy on Climate Change, or NFSCC, which was adopted in April 2010. It was then that multi-sectoral consultations were held to create the National Climate Change Action Plan. The ultimate goal of NCCAP is to build the adaptive capacities of women and men in their communities, increase the resilience of vulnerable sectors and natural ecosystems to climate change, and optimize mitigation opportunities towards gender-responsive and rights-based sustainable development. The country's food security can be greatly affected by climate change. Thus, there is a need to study the vulnerability of the food production sector and to create strategic actions to enhance climate change resilience of agriculture and fisheries.
Noong 1980s, maganda po yung nagiging ano namin dito. Dahil yung panahon nun, talagang maganda. Yung tag-ulan, talagang tag-ulan. Yung tag-araw, tag-araw. Pero po habang tumatagal, nagbabago na yung klima, yung panahon, kaya umuunti na yung ani namin dito.
Ibagyo ang karon kaniadto ang kuan klima. Init karon ang panahon kaysa niadto. Sa una medyo mayo yung pakuha niadto sa una, pero karon multi ka gamay man ang pakuha sa panagat. Because climate change can also affect water supply,
There is a need for a comprehensive review and subsequent restructuring of the entire water sector governance, considering the effect of climate change. It is also important to assess the resilience of major water resources and infrastructures, manage supply and demand, manage water quality, and promote conservation.
Talagang bumaba talaga yung tubig niya. Talagang maliit na lang ang tubig niya. Ganon siya kabilis bumaba kapag hindi umuulan. Dahil nga, yung mga puno natin, wala na eh. Hindi na maganda yung maintenance ng watershed natin. Kaya
the current Philippine ecosystems are not in good shape, and further damage will be brought by climate change. Thus, there is a need to adjust human activities, protect and rehabilitate critical ecosystems, and strengthen its ecological resilience through mitigation and adaptation.
Servisyon talaga namin, nagbabago talaga yung coral reef ng Port Barton. Dati matitingkad na green, unti-unting nagiging brown, tapos wala na talaga, makikita mo na matay talaga ang corals, nasisira.
The recent tragedies brought by climate change should be a wake-up call to everybody. National and local government agencies should create strategic actions that give importance to coordinated efforts on disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation to minimize the threats to human security.
Timoto nga pagawas na mo sa among balay, di naman matugan ang tubig. Naputos man ako akong anak nga 3 years old ug malong. Timoto nga pagawas na mo sa among balay, nakagakos pa mi og lubi. Ako wala na ko kabalo kung asan akong mama, akong papa ug maigsuon. Kabulaag naman mi. Siyang jud sila tanan ang nabisi.
There is also a need to promote climate-smart industries or business sectors that provide products and services that utilize resources more efficiently, provide renewable sources of energy, lower greenhouse gas emissions, create green jobs, and promote lifestyles of health and sustainability to minimize environmental impact. Because the issue of climate change is mainly brought by human activities that use energy, there is a fervent need to promote utilization and development of sustainable and renewable energy, promote environmentally sustainable transport, and climate-proofing and rehabilitation of energy systems infrastructures. Climate change is a complex issue. It is important to have enough knowledge and holistic understanding of its causes and impacts, especially at the local and sectoral levels, and to have appropriate capacity to address the issue of climate change. Resiliency is vital. A resilient nation has resilient communities. The Climate Change Commission's Ecotan framework is an ecosystem-based approach in building the resiliency of local communities. The municipality of Del Carmen in Siargao serves as a pilot area in implementing the Ecotown project. Various government institutions, including people's organizations and non-government organizations, participated and talked on how to increase the adaptive capacity of the community. Other Ecotown areas include Marikina Watershed, which serves as the river basin that mitigates flooding in Metro Manila. Other ecotowns include San Vicente, Palawan, Borongan, Eastern Samar, and Batanes. It is convenient to put misfortunes as natural, but when nature is interfered with, they become fundamentally man-made. But in the same way that we have created this, we also have the power to reverse and prevent its adverse effects. We ultimately hold the future in our hands. all efforts are not just for ourselves. It is to save our children and